welcome to a new episode of Business Pharaohs. Today I have a very special guest with me, an entrepreneur who's been advising and educating the healthcare industry in the US in achieving the highest standards of organizational excellence, Dr. Mohamed Saleh. He's not only that, but he has a very diverse set of skills, honestly. He's an international speaker, he's a writer, mentor, executive coach, and trainer. Mohamed, I'm so happy to have you here today.
Thank you. This is definitely an honor and a privilege. Thank you.
Let's start the day or the convo today. We'll talk about who is Mohamed Saleh. Where did he begin? Where did his life take him? So you're an Egyptian, so an official business pharaoh in the name. So talk to us about your early life.
Awesome. Well, so I started off my career. Well, I actually started off my life. I was born in Egypt, and at the age of 6, my family flew here to the United States. We live in Connecticut, and they did their masters and doctorates while they were here, and I took the opportunity, and I was placed in a elementary school, and I finished my elementary school here, and during that time, I went to middle school, and around the age of 14, my parents were like, "All right, time to put some culture in you." So sent me back to Egypt, and I did primary school there, or secondary school there. So my high school there. I went to an English school there, got to meet a lot of friends, and finished there, and actually went to Elms University and did electrical engineering for a few years. And then at the age of 22, I came here with my family just for a visit, and I kind of just felt like I want to continue here, so told them that I'm going to stay, and all I had was a suitcase at that time, and so they supported my dreams, and I end up staying here. Just like most people that come to America with pretty much nothing. I got a job at Staples until all my transcripts were translated and transferred over, and then I got into mechanical engineering here at Central Connecticut. I fell in love with it. My major was in robotics, and so that's kind of what my passion was. And finished up my undergrad, with a lot of prayers. And at that time, I decided to get my master's as well. So pursued my master's in manufacturing engineering. At that time, I was doing a lot of internships, and one of them I realized that my designs really were poor, and the manufacturing engineers were really pissed at me for some reason as a mechanical engineer, design seats for airplanes for of a division of Boeing, and at that time I got into manufacturing engineering, heard about this thing called Lean, and I said, what, that's kind of interesting to me, and I started exploring it more to the point where I actually changed my master's to technology management, which really then focused on lean management, operations management, strategy management, project management, supply chain management, and all that. And I kind of got really excited about that stuff, and so that became kind of what my passion was. And it was fun. I couldn't have wished it for anything else. And at that time, as I was working and shadowing and interning for a lot of my professors, which is honestly the gateway to all my success, was really them. I ran into this man in Kent Stall. He was an occupational health physician at some of his plants, and he wanted to hire some of my mentors, and they were in the consulting field, so they said no, and so he approached me, and I found out that he was the chief executive officer for primary care division or primary care health facility, and he had around 8-9 offices at that time. and told me about it. And I was like, healthcare, that doesn't apply to me at all. I'm a manufacturing guy. Lean doesn't apply to healthcare. And he was like, well, just give it a shot. And he has been exploring this for quite some time now. And I was like, all right, let's try this.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's how it kind of that was kind of my input into healthcare.
It's a beautiful journey, honestly.
And
If we look at it from a deeper level, before we get into the healthcare industry, because that's going to be our main topic today, just like the different dimensions of the healthcare industry, the strategies, organizational development, how the COVID structure is looking like, how are the improvements going. So we're going to talk about all that stuff. But before we go into that stuff, I just want to talk about your early career. You sound like a risk taker before we even know what you've been doing in your life. So you've left Egypt, you left in the middle of university, you came for a visit, you told your family you're not going back, and then you just started from zero. It started from zero. You didn't mind staying back, and you took that risk. Not only there, but it shows in the risks of even an entrepreneur, because you are an entrepreneur right now, and we're also going to talk about that. So tell us a little bit about that risk taking. Where did it take you? That entrepreneurial experience, and where did it start?
Yeah, it's scary, but you feel it in your gut. Like it's one of those things that you just know it's the right thing, and you either act on it or you don't. And it takes a lot of courage to do it. And for me, it was around understanding. I had to be vulnerable with myself, and realize, you know what, this doesn't fit what I want to do. And when I came here, I felt like that's what I wanted to do, even though I had a life back home. I was working programming a supermarket.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you first start, when I first moved here, I got this feeling in my gut that was just the right thing to do. And I had a decision to make. Do I want to act on that or not? And a lot of people are not vulnerable enough with themselves. They try to protect themselves. They're worried about failure. And honestly, to be an entrepreneur, it's the complete opposite. You have to be open to failure. You have to embrace failure. You have to actually seek it. Because the faster you fail at it, the faster you're actually going to learn something. Yeah. And sometimes ego gets in the way, and you don't want to see yourself fail, and so you get in your own way. And so I had to make that leap for myself. Like, I had my own ego. So you have to get vulnerable. After you get vulnerable, you have to be able to be willing to fail. And then you have to go through that grit process. Yeah. Where you're pretty much beaten to the floor, up against the wall, and the world tests you of how much you really want this. And all you have to do is just really want it. Yeah. If you don't want it, it's going to beat you, and you're going to just go back. And you're going to blame it on a million reasons why it didn't work. You will not blame it on yourself, because your ego got in the way in the first place. And I think that's what will make it. That's what will make you a successful entrepreneur. Everything else I'll talk about today, it's a process after vulnerability, risk-taking, failure, and grit. Okay. And I've met so many people, Americans, foreigners, from all walks of life. They don't want it. They're not hungry for it. They want the easy button. And I'm going to tell you, there's no easy button. I've been beaten many times, so there is no such thing as an easy button. And you have to be willing to enjoy your scars, because you will get them regardless.
And I think this is a huge lesson that you can actually direct it to the youth or the business enthusiasts, the people that actually want to grow, that every successful person has failed hundreds of times. They failed so many times. Michael Jordan himself failed so many times. Failure is what teaches you to grow. The risks you take today, don't take them looking at the failure, because if you just focus on failing, you're gonna fail. But if you're actually taking a risk that's gonna help you reach your goals, something that will make you successful, you're looking at your end goal, not the failure. You are gonna grow. You will have failures along the way, which is natural. This is how you build yourself. This is how you construct your personality, construct your character. It has so many things that we can talk about, but a lesson to all the youth, a lesson to everyone listening to Business Pharaohs right now: take the risk, take responsibility. Just go on new ventures, check them out. You're not gonna. It might take some time out of your life, but that time you're taking is gonna build you for the future. It's not gonna slow you down. It's actually building you to become a successful person and a better version of yourself.
Yeah, so I teach at two universities here, and I've had for the last a little over a decade now many students, and there's one thing that I'm always consistent with is the cards you were dealt for a reason. And so enjoy them. Don't try to deny them. So if you have all these barriers in front of you, that's awesome. That'll just make your story better. Once you overcome them, don't try to say, I can't because, and I can't because, and I can't because. No, that's actually why you should do it, because of those. And believe me, coming here with nothing, and I had to do, there's a huge culture difference that I had to go through. There's a lot of excuses I could have made, and I could have went just right back. And I had to embrace that these are the conditions that are going to make my story worth telling. So for anyone that's listening, that's, I think, my biggest advice is when you go through that grit, all these barriers, enjoy them, because they're telling your story, and without them, you're going to have a boring story.
That's a good one. That's a good one. I have to give it to you. All right, let's dive into the healthcare industry. So our main topic is the healthcare industry in general. Talk to us. You talked to us about how you got into it, but talk to us about the dimensions. You're a healthcare practitioner. You go in there, you help organizations develop, you help organizations grow, you help hospitals find new ways of improving yourself. So talk to us about the dimensions you look at when you go into the healthcare industry. What is there to look at? Like, how can we say we want to improve the healthcare industry? What do we look at?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So as I was going in the healthcare industry, I was also getting married. And so I have now two daughters, and my wife and I, she was entering healthcare at the same time as I was entering healthcare, but she was entering it from a marketing perspective, so very different mindset than mine. And I was an engineer. I'm currently a recovering engineer, and I'll talk about why that is. But I was an engineer, so everything was process. And as I went into it, there's so many. So the landscape of healthcare is very diverse, and I've in the last, one of the organizations that I've been with was for 12 years, and I helped them go through a massive transformation. And primary care, behavioral health, home care, hospitals, skilled nursing facilities, radiology, like you name it, I've done it. And so every single aspect of the healthcare landscape, labs, they're all very, very different than one another. But they all share common dimensions. And this could probably be applied to other things as well. And in my doctorates, I went really deep into this. But the dimensions are, there's 12 of them that if you look at it from healthcare, the first one focuses on really leadership. And that could be like teamwork skills and people skills. And it could leadership commitment and how committed they are to any kind of transformation or any kind of change. that they have to go through, and how do they participate? So there's like a leadership bucket that those kind of fall into.
Mm-hmm.
Another bucket is, well, how are they with culture?
Mm-hmm.
So just like we talk about leadership participation, there's also employee participation.
Yeah.
And how are they participating as an organization? How is the two-way communication going, top down and bottom up?
Mm-hmm.
How are they open to communication? Like, is it a fearful organization that doesn't talk and speak up,
Yeah.
or is it one that's very open? These dimensions make a
Mm-hmm.
significant impact. So, there is a significance when you look at like that leadership domain and you look at that cultural domain,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of which one they're in it. But then there's also the change domain.
Mm-hmm.
And so even though you might have leadership, you might have culture, but then you have to have, there's a change aspect to it.
Mm-hmm.
So how is that organization resisting change? How are they with training? Are they like on the job training? Are they all in a classroom training? Is it a checkbox kind of training? Like what kind of training is in that industry
Mm-hmm.
or in that healthcare setting? And then the last one, like for change to actually occur, how is the character of the leader?
Mm-hmm.
So are they a very arrogant leader, egotistical, humble? Like what is the kind of leader? Because that impacts the change. And so even though there's a leadership domain, that one I kind of kept out and I put it in a different
Yeah.
domain for my researches over the years. And then there's the factor that I find that plays another role is that fourth cluster of
Mm-hmm.
dimensions, and that's what's the age of the organization.
Mm-hmm.
A small healthcare organization, a young healthcare organization is very different than a healthcare organization that's been
Yeah.
around for 150 years. What's this? How about the size of the organization? Like the organization I was transforming, it was around 30,000 employees.
Mm-hmm.
But I've also worked with organizations that were only like 2,000 employees.
Yeah.
I can work with ones that are 800. Very different
Mm-hmm.
when you look at that. And then there's also the last intrinsic factor that's in that bucket is are they union? Are they non-union?
Mm-hmm.
Are they academic? Like these
Yeah.
play a factor too. So if you're able to look at any of these healthcare organizations through these dimensions, there's those 12 of them, you're able to assess for this organization what is their character.
Okay.
Every organization, I know this sounds like a broken record in many different areas and many books that I've read, they say, everyone's the same. Everyone's not the same.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's actually very unique. And the healthcare system that I transformed, there were 7 hospitals. Every single one is different.
Yeah.
Each one of them has, if you put them up against these criterias, they all come back with different looks and different approaches. And then you have to cater your transformation towards that character.
I love that
I have
word actually. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it because it's a very very different character or like explanation or identification of like the type of job you're doing, the character, like the personality of each healthcare organization is very different. It's even different, like let's say you're within the same family. Each brother or sister has a different personality. So you're talking about something completely different. They might have the same culture, they might have the same characteristics, but a different personality that makes them way different and have like different areas of focus. So it's a beautiful description.
Absolutely. So one of the things that I think any entrepreneur or any leader that's in a healthcare setting, as they look at making any change, they have to look at these dimensions. Because what I'm seeing, and it's becoming very popular, and I'm going to talk about it later today as well in our conversation, is too many people are just taking things and adopting it from one setting to another as if everyone's the same. And they're not. And so you can't take one framework from here and plop it here and think it works. It doesn't. And I could tell you for a fact it doesn't, because I've made those mistakes. Like they could even be in the same, like you said, culture. Like this healthcare setting, 7 hospitals, 7 different cultures. And they spend a lifetime trying to become one culture. And you could do that. And you could try to make it one culture, and then you acquire a bunch of other hospitals, and then you start all over again. And so you have to approach it with the openness that difference is actually a good thing. Don't try to say, oh, this healthcare organization is different than us. We have to convert them to be like us. Well, who said you were right?
Mm-hmm.
And who said they were wrong? I have two daughters. Like I said, a 4-year-old and an 8-year-old. I'm going to tell you, they're very different and they're both
Yeah.
right. And so they have to get certain results, and how we get them from A to B has to be
Mm-hmm.
catered differently from each one. Principles have to be the same, but the catering approach of how you deploy transformation has to be
I absolutely love this because it just it comes from I understand your mentality because you're talking from a Lean Six Sigma kind of approach. So you're talking diversity, you're talking about normal distribution. Okay, this is the difference. This is the outcome. So I can completely tie into what you're saying. Uh, this doesn't only tie into actually healthcare industry, in my opinion. I think when we look at all the other, if we try to improve other organization in the business world, so that people listening can understand, everything is different. So you have different methodologies, you have different tools. Don't copy paste each tool into the organization. Actually understand the organization, understand the characteristics, understand their goals, their vision, what they need, what they want, the culture that they built that organization on. When you understand that, then you can use the tool wisely in the areas that need to be improved, and not just any area. Because if you target the wrong area, there's going to be very slow or no improvements at all. But you actually target the weak points or the bottlenecks that each organization is facing. When you break it out and you say, okay, there's 12 areas, this area is so weak. If we improve that, we can improve the efficiency of that organization by, let's say, 30%. That's actually the bottleneck. But if you target something that might have been weak in another organization, let's say it's the leadership, maybe the leadership in that hospital is amazing. So you only need 5% of improvement. So just target the right area, look, scope your areas wisely, and use the tools that will help you improve and grow. That takes us actually to the next step. Takes us to the strategies of actually how to develop. So we understand now how to lay it out, the different opportunities of improving something in the healthcare industry, from leadership to the organizational structure in general. Now we talk about the phases. How do you actually, what strategy do you take in approaching an organizational development task, or a lean, or in a lean setup kind of way?
Yeah, no, I think completely agree with everything that you said.
Mm-hmm.
You hit it out of the park. So one thing that I would say is that through a transformation, I'm not a framework kind of guy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I like to redesign my frameworks and architects based on the
Mm-hmm.
problem that I'm trying to solve. However, with that said, there is a method of how you approach this. That first method there's a what I call the commitment, like
Mm-hmm.
I'll call it phase. And in that commitment phase, the first thing you want to do is you want to understand the why.
Mm-hmm.
And this is very important for anyone that's listening, is understanding the why, because there's so many superficial whys out there.
Mm-hmm.
I've talked to many people in Africa, Egypt, and specifically. I've talked to many people outside in
Mm-hmm.
England and in Europe and all that, and I'm noticing there's a thread of themes going on here,
Mm-hmm.
and people are not understanding what why means. And so the why in this aspect is what is the mindset that you're trying to change,
Yeah.
not what are the results you're trying to get. Very different. Okay, and so if I go into an organization and I look at these characteristics and I realize, wow, they're super arrogant here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's the problem I'm trying to solve,
Yeah.
not that they can't make money.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, like it's very important that we understand that, because people come in with all these gadgets and tools and say, we're going to implement this, and we're going to implement lean or
Yeah.
Six Sigma or blah blah blah, and they think they're gonna, that's the why. That's not the why. Lean is not the why. Okay, and so the why is, okay, this organization has too much hierarchy,
Mm-hmm.
and so they truly believe, the people on the top truly believe that they're the ones that know everything.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
Superior knowledge.
they're like legends in their own head.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so they have no appetite to engage the front line for ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so when they start doing idea generation and stuff like that, that's all superficial. They already think they're smart. Okay,
Yeah.
so they really truly have to believe, the mindset that you're trying to shift here is they have to believe that the richness of their company is in the
Mm-hmm.
front lines, and that they actually don't know,
Yeah.
and have the ability to let go of that ego and be humble enough to go down there and try to find out that.
Mm-hmm.
And so then becomes a different problem. Well, there's too much hierarchy. Let's flatten out the organization. Now we're starting to understand the why of why you're doing this transformation.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're coming in and say, you know what, I'm losing market share. Yeah, that's not why. That's in a different phase. That's not important, but that's not the why I'm talking about here.
Mm-hmm.
Then after that is outline the relationship.
Yeah.
That's when you understand those characteristics. Say it's an adopted child that you just brought into the family. Okay. And you have to understand, this relationship of how are you going to deal with the uniqueness of this person being the company.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so what is the relationship you're going to have? Because if you're going to come in authoritarian and say, you guys suck, you can't do this, you can't do that,
Mm-hmm.
you need to do it this way, lean is the best way, that's not going to work. Okay. And so you have to outline the relationship and outline, okay, what is the best approach to approaching you? Is it bringing people from the outside? Is it hiring certain level of consultants? Is it bringing people from internally from the organization?
Yeah.
What is that relationship going to look like to mold this new individual?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so they could think in this new way. And then you have to start getting some insights from your stakeholders.
Yeah.
And so going out there and understanding, not from what the president told you or what from the executive team told you, but go out there and understanding before you commit to this, okay, what are other people saying and what is going on, and start interviewing people and having these conversations. And at that point, you're understanding the commitment. Too many people say yes to lean when they don't know what they signed up for.
Mm-hmm.
Too many lean practitioners are going in with a commitment that they don't understand that if there's even a commitment.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would say that's like the first phase of deployment.
Yeah.
The second phase is what I call the assessment.
Mm-hmm.
That's for me, like, that's where like the fun starts now.
That's where the numbers get in.
Yeah, that's where the numbers come in, because at this point the child is yours. Sign paperwork.
Yeah.
You've committed, both parties understand what they're getting themselves into, and now the ugly truth is going to come out.
Mm-hmm.
So in this assessment phase, which is, that's a lot of times we skip the commitment and we go to assessment.
Mm-hmm.
And then we complain later that leadership isn't committed. Well, you never told them what they're committing for.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of the symptoms that you see in transformations are a result of rushing through commitment. But then when you get into assessment, you have to understand the current state.
Mm-hmm.
So why is this company not performing? What does the value stream look like? What is that continuum of care, especially in healthcare? What does that look like? Like from the moment the patient gets sick until we get them better, primary care, going through imaging, through labs, through hospitalization, home care, skilled nursing, the whole gamut. If they have behavioral or psych issues, like what does that entire continuum look like from bad to good? And as you go through that, you understand, okay, what is the real problem here out of all of these conditions that we want to solve for, and how are we going to formulate a strategy to solve for them? And so someone says, you know what, we have to improve employee engagement. There's no such thing as an employee engagement initiative that's worldwide and you try to make everyone happy. It's not about making people happy. And a lot of the employee engagement initiatives that are out there are very superficial. Okay, because they're not truly trying to engage staff in transforming the organization. Okay, and so trying to understand, assessing the current state, aligning then to that formulated strategy. So putting together a formulated strategy that will go from A to B. If it's improved market share or financial position or competitive edge or whatever you're attacking in that area. Then comes the area of my specialty, which is in all of this, my absolute favorite part, designing the architect.
Okay.
And so if I notice that, okay, I understand the why, I've been vocal about it in the commitment phase, that guys, here's how you're thinking right now. Here's how you have to start thinking. You have
Mm-hmm.
to, from like self over team to team over self.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so your architect, maybe in your performance reviews, have to go be different from assessing every individual to
Yeah.
assess team-based pods, almost cross-functional pods. And so then we start designing this new architecture of how we want to deploy what we just learned. We have our
Yeah.
true north, or that strategy where we want to get
Mm-hmm.
to. We understand culturally the why behind what we have to do, and we got your commitment that you're gonna
Mm-hmm.
roll up your sleeves and do it. You're not gonna delegate this.
Yeah.
So we start designing the approach, and I have many different methods of how one designs an approach, but really it's
Mm-hmm.
around designing it around certain principles that you want the company now to stand for.
Yeah.
If you want to be known for, and these are different than values. So if you want to, if one of your principles is flow, you want to be able to flow through the
Mm-hmm.
organization. Anything that impedes flow is not okay. So waiting is bad. If you want to make sure that, a principle could be team over self. Okay, well, if team over self is your principle, anything that violates that, we have to redesign it. You start looking at risks and costs to every different type of design, and then you start putting together a plan for deployment.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of brings us, like, that's what an assessment should
Third.
look
Yeah.
like.
Mm-hmm.
Then becomes the deployment phase. And, a little off topic here, but like in the last, I want to say 6 weeks or so, I've been, I've done more Zoom calls than I could ever imagine. And I'm noticing that there are people that actually start in the deployment phase. They come in and say, you know what, Mohamed, we want you to deploy daily management. Okay.
What am
Why?
I gonna do?
Or we want to put down, a strategy deployment system, or we want to deploy a value stream improvement.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sitting here, I'm like, but you're not committed as an organization. You don't know the problem that you're solving for. You're actually taking a solution and you're backing into a problem
Mm-hmm.
to justify this solution, which is by far the worst thing you could do.
If I jump in, sorry for that part. I think that part about the commitment is very important, specifically in the healthcare industry, because the executives or the C-level personnel, if they say something, everything happens in the hospital. Everything is led by them because it's a pretty, like, let's say it's not a wide structure. Like it's pretty long, and everything has to come from like the executive leadership on top. All the decisions made, all the big improvements, and if they're not dedicated to that improvement, the foundations of whatever improvements happening is not going to last more than a season. It's literally going to last, let's say, for the summer, and then they're going to forget about it because there's no focus from like the CEO, the COO, the innovation lead, whoever it is. So I think the commitment part is actually very important in a field where it's very long structured. There's a lot of hierarchy. There's a lot of superior knowledge that they believe on top over there. So yeah.
Yeah, and not to call people out.
Mm-hmm.
It's not my intention. I have, and me and you have talked about this before.
Mm-hmm.
I have a burning passion to help both the Gulf and specifically Egypt.
I was actually you just jumped to what I wanted us to talk about.
But I'm noticing in those I'll call them regions. I'm noticing that what we're talking about isn't that appreciated because people don't want to commit.
Mm-hmm.
They want to take what you have and deploy it and implement it without getting their hands dirty.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to tell you that it does not work. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting people that call me and, I want to go and help and I want to do X, Y, and Z, but I'm not going to do it wrong. I'm not going to do a disservice when I know it doesn't work. Unfortunately, there are people out there that are doing it that way, and they sell it cheaper and they promise things that are not going to ever happen. And people are buying it because, why do what Mohamed is telling them to do and having to commit and roll up their sleeves and get their hands dirty while this other person is promising the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Okay. For no effort.
Mm-hmm.
And there is no easy button. Like it's just like an entrepreneur startup. Like when you do this, the grit is going to happen and you're going to have to roll up your sleeves and do it yourself. So This is not just in the Gulf and in Egypt or those
Mm-hmm.
two regions. It's worldwide.
Yeah.
But because of our passion is specifically there, I'm seeing more and more, because more of
Mm-hmm.
my conversations are tailored towards those regions. So then let's go into deployment.
Yeah.
And if you want to bring us back to this, please do.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to talk too much about the direction that you want us to head.
No problem. Let's go to deployment and then sustainability. Let's give a high level overview. Okay, so I see that committing is, if you're committed at the beginning, you're gonna reach higher levels of improvement in your facility, and then your assessment targets the value or the improvement section or the bottlenecks that you're facing. Because if you, for say, you want to improve your value stream, maybe that improving that value stream comes from a different section that's gonna help improve the overall efficiency of the organization, and not just whatever they're thinking of. They're just thinking in a shallow way. But if you actually assess and improve, outline the different sections, the value, and then you do your architecture. I love that word, because you're actually redefining, you're reorganizing, you're building a structure in a very innovative way to improve a part of an organization. And then the beauty of it is actually getting that thought and paper to work, the deployment.
Yeah, absolutely. And right before we go into deployment, I just want to make a comment. There's two ways you could look at transformations. The way I'm talking, or we're talking about right now, and the other way that I'm obviously against. And I'm very transparent about it. If you look at you as a human, as a system, a business is a system and a human is a system. We're both systems. There's a mindset that you approach a transformation. Call it lean or whatever you want to call it. And let's use losing weight as your true north here. You could go to the gym to lose weight, or you could go to the gym to be healthy. If you want to lose weight, by all means, pick the other people. Okay, they will help you lose weight. You'll get it back in a month, but they'll help you lose weight. Okay, and you'll pay X amount of dollars or pounds or whatever your thing is, and you'll be fine. But you'll gain it again, and then you'll hire that trainer again, and then you'll lose weight, and then you'll gain again. It's a vicious cycle. Okay. However, through that process, you had to starve yourself. You had to do X, Y, and Z. You superficially lost all that weight, and then it just came back again. So you went through all this torture to just gain it again. And so what ends up happening, you start hating certain methodologies. Let's try Six Sigma. Oh, that didn't work. Let's try Lean. Oh, that didn't work. Let's try Agile. That didn't work. Let's try X, Y, and Z, and whatever new names are coming out. Okay. Because you're not trying to get fit. You're trying to lose weight. And there's so many, I'll call them window dressing methodologies out there that people buy into that help them lose weight. But if you want to get fit, it requires you to have a very different mindset. Okay, it's a lifestyle. And the way you eat, the way you smile, the way you talk, the way you think, the way you read, the gym becomes a portion of that. But it becomes embodies your everyday thinking. And start going to the gym, not to lose weight, but going to the gym because it's a new routine. It's a discipline. And if you can't make that mind shift in commitment and assessment, then deployment means nothing. It's a waste of your time. Because you're going to deploy, you're going to go to the gym, you're going to hit it hard in January, and by March, you're going to stop. And next year in January, you're going to have a new year resolution, and you're going to go to the gym again, and you're going to hire a different trainer, or you're going to call that trainer suck, but this one's going to be the better. Okay? No, you didn't want to have the discipline to begin with. So if you don't have discipline, that's what commitment really means. It means that you're going to have discipline and vulnerability to say that you have bad routines. Okay, and you have to have new routines, and these new routines have to be fostered in a certain mindset, and it has to be a fit mindset. And so then you go through into deployment, and there's a bunch of things that I usually deploy, or I advise people to deploy after they've gone through these two phases. Many don't make it past the first two phases. And that's, how are you going to develop your people systems? So the moment I hire Mohamed, okay, what's going to be his succession plan? When he's hired, not 3 years later when I figure out what I want to do with him. Okay, like, no, on hire, how are you putting together a succession plan to say, okay, this guy has X, Y, and Z potential.
Yeah.
And in 3 years, here's where I want him to grow. And everything in that path from hire to promotion, okay, how are you going to design a people system for that? Obviously, you have to engage HR, you have to engage other departments, but you need a people system. Because everything, you know, I'm a big fan of lean. So, you know, if I had to name all of these things, it's really a people development system. Like, that's really what it comes down to. Now that I understand the people system and how I want to grow my company and grow, no, not my company, grow my organization, my people. Okay, then I could say, okay, so what strategies will I deploy from that formulated strategy of aligning the true north in assessment, those issues that now I want to resolve? How am I going to engage these people to align them with the development of them? So the strategy becomes just a vehicle or a venue to develop my people. The real core here is just to develop my people. I'm just using this strategy as an excuse to develop them. Call that strategy whatever it is, it doesn't matter. It's meant to develop your people. If you're using your people, trying to get the most out of them, you're not going to get anything. But if you're trying to give the most to them and develop them, you'll get something out of it. You'll nurture them. And then you look at your redesigning your value streams and your products and looking at how you could flow it better. You start looking at how do you create a sustainment net, which is daily management. And that really holds anything that you improve this year, it holds it together for next year. It creates daily huddles, it creates routines. It structures you as a leader and as an individual and as an employee. And then you start looking at, how does knowledge get shared? So that if one person solves this problem, how do other people in the company know about it so they're not recreating the wheel? And as you grow, you don't have this growth syndrome issue where you grow too fast and then people don't know the left is doing what and the right is doing what. So that's what I call deployment phase.
Before we go into I love this because it actually, this method exactly, the commitment, the assessment, the deployment, the sustainability, all that stuff is not really healthcare only. It's building your own venture. If you can think of it, you have an idea, you want to build your own business, you want to start your own startup, you want to just go into your own venture. That's what you do. You commit yourself, you have an idea, you say, okay, I'm gonna do this, this is how I'm gonna do it. And then you assess your market, you see your market needs, you see where you can stand, you see your like, what value would you bring to the table if you come into the market, and you just go from there. You do your market analysis, and then, okay, you understand everything, you have your product. Now you deploy your product in the market. When deploying your product in the market, you need to make a connection with your own people. You need to tell them, okay, you guys encompass this product. You need to represent that product. You guys need to show what that product actually stand for, our mission, our goals. And that's how we're going to sustain our relationship. You're going to build a two-way communication strategy of actually giving them value, but at the same time, they're seeing, okay, this value helps the environment. So people are going to be like, okay, this is actually valuable. And the people who sell it actually have values and morals that they stand for. And then what we're going to talk about next is sustaining that growth. You want to grow, you've already went into the market, you want to grow, you want to sustain, you want people to start coming, you want that exponential or even linear growth to occur to your company, brand, product, whatever it is. So talk to us about that sustainability factor.
Yeah, that's, I'm going to just say it out loud. Anything that you've done wrong will show up in sustainment. Okay, everything. And if you're a practitioner, lean practitioner, Six Sigma project manager, agile coach, I'm sure there's new titles out there. Like, if you're any of those, okay, change agent, you tend in this phase to blame others. And if you're a leader, you tend in this phase to blame them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so this is really a testimonial to everything that's gone wrong
Mm-hmm.
and the humility of both parties to admit what they've done wrong.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I've done many things wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I get to this phase, I self-reflect and I ask myself, is it the model that's not working and I need to readjust it and I have to have the humility? Okay. Or is it how the leaders are using the model?
Yeah.
And they have to have the humility to change what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so this becomes a very, I would say, intense, and many practitioners lose their job in this phase. Okay. This has to be a very intense conversation with the respect that whatever shows up, no one's at fault.
Yeah.
Okay. You now know what you need to do different and you failed along the way. So there's no difference if you failed in this phase.
Yeah.
So you need to go back and fix the model or the leader's practice in this phase. And what I've done over the years, and primarily it's been healthcare, but it's really unanimous what I'm about to say, is I've leveraged something called the Shingo Model.
Mm-hmm.
The Shingo Model is an assessment tool that shows organizational excellence for organizations. And the Malcolm Baldrige is another tool I've used as well. And I've combined them over the years to kind of make them very unique. And the reason I use this is not for the score or for the recognition of bronze, silver, and gold as you go through this, but I've advocated that any organization that goes on this transformation adopt this methodology, especially with their architect, because their principle-based architect or sensei that takes them through this journey. If you have a bronze, silver, and gold milestones that you as a company are going through, you will get out of this mindset that there's a destination, because there is no destination. There's nothing you're going to. Okay. And so you have to look at this as a journey. And so if you go after this as I want to get the Shingo Gold, the destination, once you get it, what are you going to do? You're going to just stop. And so you have to really position your assessment for that goal to be something unreachable, so that you always are seeking perfection, that you never have this arrogance that, oh, I'm better than everyone. Okay. And so I think that is the best advice I could give in sustainment, is that make sure that through your architect and assessment that you designed a journey platform, not a destination platform. And so, because if it's a destination, you deploy daily management, every department. So in my organization, we had 800 departments. Okay. So we deployed them all. So we're done.
Yeah.
That's it. Like we close shop. And so we want to make sure that there's this destination. And we also want to make sure that we're building problem solving muscle, because as a center of excellence, we want to grow this company in a way that we could back off and they could do it. Okay. And so there's that in that commitment phase, when we say outline the relationship. Okay. So I'm going to do some and you're going to watch, then I'm going to do some together, and then I'm going to step back and you're going to do it all. Okay. By sustainment, if you're not doing it all and I'm still doing everything, I fail.
Yeah.
Okay. Like I wasn't, like, it's like me taking you to the gym and you watching me work out. Like
you're training the eyes. You're training the eyes.
Yeah. And it's because it's funny, because then you get exhausted watching me work out. It doesn't work that way. And so sustainment really comes in the process of saying, okay, so what workout routines have to change? What muscles have grown? What muscles are still weak? What new exercise equipment do I have to give you? And what are some of the practices that I'm giving you that are not working? Maybe your body type is different than what I did. I have to have the humility to say, you know what, I messed up. This is not the right equipment for you. Let's try this equipment now. Even if it means going back into the assessment phase and re-looking at that. The other thing is to really optimize, you have to bring some new blood in. And so start looking at outside in. Is there new consultants or new expertise that you could trickle in through this transformation to make sure that they're challenging all your assumptions? Because at one point, you know, you get used to that culture.
Mm-hmm.
And you need a voice as a practitioner. Even you need a voice to tell you, hey Mohammed, so why are you doing this again? And so you need that outside in. You also need inside out perspective. So have these people go and tell their stories. Okay,
Yeah.
let them go to conferences, let them go all over the world and start telling what they're doing so that they could teach others as well as being taught. Invite people
Yeah.
to your company. Okay, the best way to keep your house clean is to invite people in.
Yeah.
Okay, so keep inviting, and so that people, as they come in, you're just going to have to sustain, and you're going to have pride. Your
Mm-hmm.
people are going to have pride in what you're doing, and so
Mm-hmm.
those are all sustainment things, as long as it doesn't build arrogance. I've seen companies invite people in, go out to conferences, think they're all that,
Mm-hmm.
okay, and then they stop. They get the gold medal, they're done.
Mm-hmm.
Like they think they're the best, and then all of a sudden they look aside, and this new company, new startup that's coming by, or new healthcare company that's really buying people out,
Mm-hmm.
they take them out because they thought it was a destination. They didn't see it as a journey.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say those are the 4 phases that I hope people go through. Know that each one of the phase is completely unique to each individual's characteristics.
Let me summarize that last phase because I think it's very important, and then we'll get into the fire question section. So the sustainability factor, I think it's very important. You were talking about something that I personally embody. I love setting high standards for myself, even if it's unreachable, even if it's uh, like let's say I want to make $1 million sales this year in a business that I just started. Maybe it's a far fetch, but if you keep working, if you keep that uh, destination always over there, that there's light at the end of the tunnel, you keep riding slowly, step by step, you keep growing, but there's always a place you can go to. There's always a place of improvement. But if you set low standards that you can reach within 2 days, then you're not actually challenging yourself. So the major goal of the sustainability factor, that you actually keep challenging yourself, so that improvement factor is always on the people's mind. It's always on the leader's mind. It's always on the employees' mind, that they actually have to improve. There's always that continuous improvement factor that they need to take into consideration. The second thing I think was very important you talked about is that don't let the consultants or the people do everything for you. You actually need to get your hands dirty. You need to get in there, and step by step, you need to take full control of that growth factor. Either it's you get the consultant and he helps you at the start. He helps get the ball rolling, and then you keep pushing the ball by yourself until it reaches the whatever it is, or it's actually incorporating a continuous improvement facility in your hospital or in your organization that's actually going to do that job for you, that so you don't actually have to get people from outside. There's actually someone who's with a pure job of just how to improve the efficiency, the productivity, and the structure of our company. So
Yeah.
that's
Can I just add
yeah,
something?
yeah, of course.
You remind me of something that I forgot
Mm-hmm.
to say that I think is important. So my team was around 30. I had
Mm-hmm.
7 senseis and around 23 facilitators, and all at black belt level, and
Mm-hmm.
senseis were beyond that. And one thing that in the sustainment phase that I did, and I'm very proud of it actually, is that once we started getting to that spot, I started deploying my team
Mm-hmm.
into operational roles.
Mm-hmm.
So like my sensei for one of the facilities became the vice president of home care.
Mm-hmm.
And I started deploying some of my senseis and
Mm-hmm.
into vice president roles, and some of my facilitators into director roles, and hired new fresh blood from the outside, so that it becomes this recruitment. And
Mm-hmm.
I've hired people from within the organization that
Mm-hmm.
had high potential into the center of excellence, the SLEAN department, so that I could grow them and then throw them back out into the organization. That's part
Yeah.
of your ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
The issue I'm seeing sometimes is that when you start internally a center of excellence, you hire it with the people in your company that you didn't want and you wanted to fire, but
Mm-hmm.
you couldn't. And so you put them in this office. Okay. No, you want to put your best in this office, not your worst.
Yeah.
Okay. This is not a spot to push the people that you don't want into. This is a spot to look at who your highest potentials are,
Mm-hmm.
and then grow them into that center of excellence so that you could redeploy them once they've gotten that muscle.
Yeah.
And so I think you make a really good point. I just wanted to add that because I think that plays a huge factor in sustainment.
I totally agree with you. You already touched point on the third point I was gonna say. It's like keeping that fresh blood, keeping the water flowing, keeping that circulation of people. That you always introduce new consultants, new people to your that will bring new ideas. Like you're not superior when you stay in an ecosystem and you grow old in it, and you don't like. Let's say you're in a room, you never open your windows, it starts to get like there's no air, there's no oxygen, you can't breathe. So you always need to keep that air flowing, to circulate that, to keep a healthy ecosystem that's always thriving on new ideas, and just they can see the outside world. Don't consolidate yourself into one point and not open up. So that's the third point. And the last point is just be open-minded, always seek improvements, and look out for like what the world is doing. Don't just look out, see what the technologies are. And although sometimes, especially in the healthcare industry, it's hard to keep improving at a fast pace, but always seek the technology that will help you be more productive, because it will help you actually improve the patient's like the life of the patients inside the hospital. You'll be able to open up more beds. You'll be able to make more profit, which is the main goal of any business, even hospitals. You'll be able to save more lives. So always look out for the new technologies, always seek improvements, and always lead to the satisfaction of your employees and your customers, because that's what's going to help your company grow and your company grow in general.
Yep.
Let's jump into the quick questions section.
Okay.
Or the fire questions. I love this part because it spices things up a little bit. It lets the people know a little bit about maybe yourself, some quick questions. So we have a minute, 4 to 5 questions in a word or a sentence. All right?
All right.
So what's your favorite quote?
What's my favorite quote?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who it's by, but I use it a lot. So be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Okay. What's the most important thing, just in one word, about organizational development?
People.
Mm-hmm. Okay. How can you describe an entrepreneur in 3 words?
Grit, vision, and integrity.
If we look at the future, or if you look at the past, sorry, if you look at the past, if you look at Mohammed, what would you tell the younger Mohammed, like 20 years back, 15 years back? What would you tell yourself? An advice or a word you'll tell yourself that will help you grow in the future.
Enjoy the journey.
I love this. We can actually talk about it later. But and then finally, what's your favorite book?
Ooh.
Favorite movie? Anything, just a favorite.
So there's a book by Mr. Hero. And it's called Tree Ring Management.
Okay.
I would say that's my favorite book.
So that ends our quick question or 5 questions section. I always like ending the episode of Business Pharaohs with some advice to the people listening to us, to the youth, to the business enthusiasts, to the people that want to grow in life. You've given us, of course, a lot of advice on the way. Some advice is about improving your company structure, improving your organization. You've given us advice about leadership, how to think, how to grow. You've also given us advice about how to start your own venture. What additional advice would you give, just talking directly to the people from your heart? The best advice you've had in your life, what would you tell them?
Okay. So these are partially mistakes I've made and partially things I see that needs to be done. Never be too little to do never be too big to do the little things that need to be done. Like truly, Like
Mm-hmm.
if you are ever in a place where you want other people to do it because you're too good for it,
Yeah.
you're stepping into a very dangerous zone,
Mm-hmm.
a zone that you might not be able to return from. Okay. And when you do return from it, it takes a very long time. And I've learned that the hard way.
Yeah.
So I would say never be too big to do the little things that
Mm-hmm.
need to be done, even if it means cleaning the toilets.
Yeah.
Okay. And so I would say that's one. The others, I would say team over self every
Mm-hmm.
time. Find people around you that you could help. Don't find people around you that you could
Mm-hmm.
get things out of.
Mm-hmm.
That is my success has been fostered in that,
Yeah.
but the return doesn't seem like it's there. It is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Find people around you that want help and help them. Don't find people around you so you could get something out of them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Team over self. That's I think very important. And the last one I would say for everyone that's listening is truly be humble. Don't try to seek recognition. Don't
Mm-hmm.
try to seek popularity. You will get all
Mm-hmm.
those. Okay, once you're successful. Um, Stay humble. Always know that and this is something I go with, and
Yeah.
and I repeat it in my head, and it's a daily reminder.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I wake up in the morning and say, I don't know anything. Let me go find out.
Yeah.
Okay, once you think you know, your journey's over.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so, like, when I got my doctorate, the only reason I got it is to prove to myself that everything I was taught, I was wrong.
Yeah.
Okay. And guess what? It is wrong. And there's a lot I've learned, and there's a lot that I'm getting, I've gotten this far to recognize that everything I know, okay, requires challenging. And
Mm-hmm.
so if you close your mind and don't have the humility to admit that what you know might be wrong, okay, you're going to close the doors on everything else.
Yeah.
And this specifically to people that are going
Mm-hmm.
through transformations. And so I would say those are the high level things
Mm-hmm.
that I would tell everyone out there is to focus just on those three things: have the humility, team over self, and really foster that, and you'll be okay.
Mohammed, I'm so happy that we had this episode. It was so much fun. I'm pretty sure the people listening to us are gonna gain a lot of experience just by those wise words, your experiences, and your analytical skills. You're a very analytical guy, and I'm 100% sure that whoever listened is gonna come out with something that's gonna help them move forward in their business, in their life, or in their career in general. So thank you so much for your time. You encompass the business pharaoh's morals, ethics, and determination. I believe that I want to help build a community of the most prominent entrepreneurs and business developers in the Middle East. And truly, 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 I believe that people like yourself, the leaders of our community, are what's going to help Egypt and the Middle East grow in the future. They're going to help the next generations realize the mistakes they're facing, the problems they might face, and how to improve them, how to grow. So thank you so much again, and I don't know what to say. So thank you.
I am very touched, humbled, and appreciative of you having me on this. It's a huge recognition for me. I appreciate that.
Thank you.